these sunglasses on my head and I feel like I might look a little bit like I'm cosplaying Lara Croft, but if she was in the Matrix, with this hair and these sunnies. But sorry, little ramble to start the episode. Welcome back to Get to the Plot Film Club. I hope we're all doing very well. It's getting hot again, so I'm gonna try and survive this episode as well as I can. I've also been bitten. If you're watching the episode, you might be able to see I've been bitten twice on my face, and they are the itchiest things. If anyone has any like cure remedies for mosquito bites, please let me know, because I'm trying so hard not to scratch them, because I obviously don't want them to scar, because they are in the worst place that they could possibly be. But if anyone knows anything that can help me, please let me know. But I actually just, like, random things I've been up to. I saw Spider-Man yesterday, and really good movie, and I'm really happy it is just as fun and quirky as the other movies have been. But obviously, if you've seen the previous movie, that was just so good that I knew going into this one it just wouldn't hit as hard, but I think it still carried the same energy, so I appreciate that. But let me know also if you're going to see the new Spider-Man movie, and if you're even really into Marvel, because to be honest, personally for me anyway, I only really like Spider-Man. I have watched other Marvel movies, and I do always try and take myself to see the new Avengers movies when they come out, because I don't like spoilers. Like, that for me, I have to see it the day it comes out, because if you spoil it for me, I'm gonna be fuming, even though I don't really care, but I don't appreciate people getting to that before me. So, but yeah, let me know if you're excited, or if you're excited for any other Marvel movies coming out later this year. But we're talking Bring It On today. I was so excited to choose this movie because I've been wanting to do a fun chick flick early 2000s movie, because they do just hit different. Bring It On is funnily enough, one that I haven't managed to get myself around to watching till now. And I do have thoughts about this one. I'm currently sat in the middle. I don't really know, because I think for me it felt a similar vibe to Clueless, where it has kind of, iconic lines, iconic scenes, outfits that people always refer back to. However, was there much actually going on? Was there a lot of substance to it, is my question, but we will figure that out by the end of the episode. So I'm going to tell you a few fun things about this movie, and actually this was a really fun one to research. I think personally it's a lot more up my street in terms of the backstory, but also what I wanted to get into is mainly the costume design, because I love thrifting, I love vintage fashion, especially obviously from Y2K 90s, but also just dating back to like the 50s. I have a little vintage clothing collection, fun little fact for you, which I kind of want to start posting about on my TikTok, but I feel like I started a niche and I don't want to veer too far away from it, that people are like, why are you posting about this is boring. But it's just one of my little passions. I love thrifting and charity shops, that's one of my favorite things to do. But so it was interesting to go more into depth with the costume design for this movie, because I think they actually did some really clever things, and that's definitely the thing that stood out to me the most about the whole film in general. So this movie came out in 2000, and it was directed by Peyton Reed, who directed The Breakup, Yes Man, Down with Love, and also all of the Ant-Man movies. Jessica Bendinger was the screenwriter for this movie, and she originally started off as a music journalist covering things like hip-hop in Spin magazine when she was an undergraduate at Columbia University, and then later was writing for MTV News. She later became very invested in watching cheerleading championships that were televised on ESPN, and she asked her agent if it was possible to then kind of start writing about it and potentially write a movie all about competitive cheerleading, which then obviously Bring It On was born. Now, the movie was originally called Cheer Fever, and I'm so glad they changed that title, because dear God, if I had to say we were watching Cheer Fever this week, I'd probably punch myself in the face. But this was handed directly to Peyton Reed, who was really intrigued by the story, and he said in an interview, "I went into expecting a take on cheerleading that would perhaps try to be overly hip, hating its characters and thumbing its nose at them. But Jessica created characters who you really like, and you find yourself really rooting for them." He then signed on to do the 45-day shoot for the movie, which had a budget of $10 million, and a cast led by Kirsten Dunst, Gabriella Union, and Eliza Dushku. He cast these actors because he knew that they could handle the physical demands of the movie. And he said in an interview, it was important to me in doing a cheerleader movie to show the athleticism and really make a strong argument that it is a sport because it's insane. When you go to a competition and see a routine, it's amazing enough. But when we're doing the movie and had to do multiple takes in 90-degree heat, I was just amazed at the stamina. It received a really positive response from critics and audiences alike. It was even labelled as the Citizen Kane of cheerleading movies. It was loved for its saucy tone and funny performances, led to the box office taking in $90 million worldwide. And the article that I took this from ended saying, in the 9 years that followed, Bring It On became synonymous with American-style cheerleading and spawned 4 direct-to-video sequels. This article was written in 2012. There are now 7 sequels to this movie, and the latest one being a slasher movie, which I actually can't get my head around. I think there's only so many types. Like Step Up. I don't even know how many movies there are for Step Up. I'm actually going to look this up very quickly. So there's 5 Step Up movies and there's 7 Bring It On movies, which I think says a lot, but they all, no offense, they all look like trash. I'm so sorry if any of you like them, but they're direct-to-video sequels, so I think that says enough about them. So looking at costume design, Mary Jane Fort was the head costume designer for this movie, and she says in an interview, what goes around comes around in the world of fashion. It's cynical, and what you see now in 2020, which was when the article was written, you're going to see it again in 2040, so it just circles and cycles around. I really tried to make it as authentic as I could for that age at the time, but not be too trendy. I wanted something that could hold up. The reason I wanted to look at costume design was because I feel like it really just hits the nail on the head. I find it's, like she says, it's not too trendy, but it feels right for the time. If anything, the trends more for that time was shown through the hairstyles and the makeup, like the frosted under the eyebrow, or like the hairstyle, like the bunches that Kirsten Dunst had most of the time, which actually I was really debating I might recreate it for work because I actually want to have a go. They're really cute, but the outfits were so much more casual and classic. And I think the first thing that came to my head when I was thinking about costume design was about how Mean Girls, who also Mary Jane Fort is the costume designer for Mean Girls as well, the original one. But then I thought about the most recent Mean Girls movie. I haven't actually seen it, and I don't think I ever will because it doesn't look great. It doesn't sound great. Apart from Renee. Renee fans out there, please don't shoot me. But the costume design in that movie, I just thought they're trying to be trendy, but it feels tacky. Why is the most popular girl wearing Shein clothes, or at least resembles Shein clothes? I get it, it's technically what the trend is now, but for that status, that you wouldn't find the most popular girl at your school wearing like the cheapest clothing. Not saying that every popular girl is rich, but she did probably at least think about what she's wearing and know that all eyes are on her. So why is she going to be wearing something that is like 99% polyester? You know what I mean? But anyway, back to this movie. I think one of the things she nails the best in this movie is the contrast in cheerleader uniforms, and she says it was a lot of fun to design them. The main colours, obviously the red for the toros and the green for the clovers, was a strategic choice. She says the colours were a group decision with myself, the director, the production designer, and the director of photography, because it reflected the colours of absolutely everything else. When it came to designing the clothes that were outside of the competition and also outside of practice, she envisioned places that the characters would go. For example, the toros were more likely to go to the mall or the boutique to get their clothes. That's why it feels a lot more simple and classic and elegant, especially in Torrance's wardrobe. She goes for more classic, sweet florals, pretty pastels, capri pants. Fort really wanted the fact that she was the head cheerleader to reflect in her clothing, that everything was very precise, and that she wanted to look really put together. When she was looking into what the clovers would be wearing, however, she wanted it to be things that you probably wouldn't get in a more provincial place like San Diego. She wanted them to be more the antithesis of trendy, is what she says in her interview. I think what I love, though, is the contrast of Missy by Eliza Dushku. She wanted her to be more conveyed to be not your typical girly girl that transferred from Los Angeles to be more of the kind of rebel type. However, throughout the movie, you kind of see a bit more of a similar reflection between her and Torrance. I think personally conveying that they've grown closer throughout the movie, which I think is a really nice touch. But I love the contrast between the lighter pink shades that Torrance wears to the darker palette that Missy has. Kirsten Dunst was actually the only person tied to the movie when Mary Jane Fort was hired to be costume designer, so she very much had her in mind for a lot of the costuming. However, then kind of had to go with her own instinct of what everyone else was going to wear. So like I said before about the budget, fun fact, it was actually $40,000 of that $10 million budget actually went to getting the rights to the song Cherry Pie in the movie. The vintage rock t-shirts that Cliff wears throughout the movie as well, they're actually director Peyton Reed's actual vintage collection. And in one scene, Torrance says that mothers are killed to get their daughters on the squad. And then Mrs. Shipman says that mother didn't kill anyone, she hired a hitman. This is actually a reference to Wanda Webb, who in 1991 wanted her daughter on the cheerleading squad so badly that she hired her ex-husband's brother to kill her daughter's biggest rival as well as a rival's mother. However, he was actually wearing a wire at the time and therefore Webb was arrested without anyone being harmed. That's mental. I'm sorry, but I feel like you only hear about those kind of things in America. I'm sorry, but I think in the UK you could not dream of anything like that happening. So I hope they're doing a lot better now, is all I can say. But I wanted to just quickly mention, and I'm sure I've got some musical theatre lovers that are part of the film club. Obviously, this film has been made into a musical. The music and the lyrics was done by Lin-Manuel Miranda, and the direction and choreography was done by Andy Blankenburler. I think that's how you say his name. He was also the choreographer of In the Heights, Hamilton and Bandstand, and he all won Tonys for it. Obviously, I don't really have to introduce Lin-Manuel Miranda because he's just an incredible man. I'm actually seeing Hamilton on Monday with Leslie Odom Jr. in it. I'm not going to shut up about it, so get ready for that. But anyway, sorry. But yeah, he actually wrote the Bring It On musical. However, the story and the characters are actually quite different to the original plot. It's more following the character Campbell, which is meant to be Torrance. She actually moves to a different school, transferring to a more ethnically diverse high school. It kind of makes me think, why did they call it Bring It On if you're not that's not really the plot, is it? So I think they should have just done something else. Maybe called it Cheer Fever. Then that would have actually been used. But one thing Lin-Manuel Miranda said in an interview about writing the musical was the best thing about high school as a setting for a show is it's when the stakes are highest. And you know what, I will credit this movie? It did feel like the stakes were high. I just felt like the consequences didn't really amount to anything, if that makes sense. It felt like everyone was really on edge, but then when things did go wrong, it was like, oh well. Like, everything was really brushed under the carpet with this one. I don't know if you felt like that, but let me know in the comments. Anyway, so the reviews. Chloe gives it 4 stars, and she says, this was a rewatch for me, and is it anything particularly special, deep, or intellectual? No. Do I really bloody love competitive cheerleading and a good chick flick? Hell yeah. And I think you've summed that up perfectly. I don't think like I said, it didn't really stand out to me. There wasn't really a plot. The vibes were beautiful. Did I think it was a little bit too long? Yeah, I think the kind of regionals bit with the whole choreographer, you know, trying to teach them a routine, and then it turns out he was teaching the same routine to everyone, which is crazy. I still don't really understand the whole point of that regional section, because again, they were like, oh, you've copied the routine, and now it's like, okay, we can't do anything about it, but we're gonna frown at you. But I also didn't really understand the point of it. Were people not going to get knocked out? Didn't the people that all had the same routine not just get knocked out anyway? Like, that's what I didn't understand. Again, maybe I missed it, because sometimes I do have a habit of missing things on the first watch. However, again, it just felt like they were competing, but they already knew they were going to be in nationals. So, one to dwell on for me, that. But I get what you mean, though. It is just a fun chick flick. Actually, do you know what? I will give it to the guy that played Cliff. I thought he was probably one of the best things about it. I liked him and Torrance's chemistry together. I liked that he was a bit more, like, I don't know, a bit camp. I was vibing with that. I love a camp man. That's my problem. And yeah, I had a crush on him watching this movie. Anyway, so Kat also gave it 4 stars and said, I have a soft spot for chick flicks in this era, but I think my favourite is Angus Lungs and Perfect Snogging. Same. I love that movie, and if it ever pops up on any free streaming services, get ready because I will put it on there in a heartbeat that it will be film of the week. So, sorry if you hate it, but I love it. This was a lot of fun though. Kirsten Dunst is actually really funny, and oh my god, my Buffy heart skipped a beat when Eliza came on screen. Did my gay heart think it would be better if they were lesbians? Yes. But I think about that for a lot of movies. Just a lot of fun and really vibrant. Yeah, no, I agree with you again. It's just, that could have been really fun. Although, isn't that kind of more the plot of But I'm a Cheerleader? And I haven't seen that movie, but I think that's what they play with is like sexuality and stuff like that. But I get what you mean. I think it could have done with something like that. I don't know, just just something a bit more going on that I felt like, yeah, like I said before, it was very like, oh, you're gay because you're a cheerleader. And it's like, oh, is no one gonna like reprimand this? Apart from obviously, it kind of does like a full circle thing when he's like, oh, shall we join the cheerleading squad so we can touch a load of girls? Actually, now I've said that, I like physically like cringed when the guy was talking about like touching the girls. That didn't age well. That really did not age well. And I don't know how I felt about her reaction either, because it was kind of like, you shouldn't have done that. But like, no, he shouldn't have done that because that's weird, you know? I don't like. What do you guys think? I think it's one of those things where some films don't age well, but sometimes you can overlook them. Do you feel like you can overlook that? Because it's just a little bit too much for me. I don't know. I did feel a little uncomfy watching that moment, and that, I think that's one of the things that kind of took me out of the movie, was just being like, ew. But for me personally, I think I'm gonna give it 3 stars. Very middle of the road movie. It's one of my favourite phrases. It's a fun time, and I think movies that I always call a fun time, I just usually will kind of give them 3 stars unless I really just resonate with them, i.e. Scooby-Doo. But yeah, I think my verdict is 3 stars. Also, actually, there was also one moment that I like suddenly was like, what the hell is happening? There is a piece of music in this movie which I am pretty sure that they used the same piece of music in High School Musical. It's towards the end when they're just about to do nationals, where people are kind of competing, and there's the music, and I'm thinking about it, it sounds like the same music that they use at the end of High School Musical when they're like going between the decathlon thing and the basketball game and Bop to the Top. I don't know if I've completely made this up, but I think it is the same music. So I really want to do some digging and have a little look at that. But let me know if you also thought the same thing. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me for this episode. It was really fun to talk about this movie, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And it'll be the result of the poll tomorrow, which is really exciting. I mean, obviously you can just go and check the poll now if you want to see which one's going to win. I'm quite excited, and I hope you guys are as well. So I will see you tomorrow for that reveal, and I hope you have an amazing week, and I'll see you all very soon.